every day we're all just doing the best that we can, aren't we? Well, hello there, and welcome back to my channel. We are currently hailing from my brand spanking new craft room, and guys, I am super stoked. In case you're just tuning in, my husband and I recently moved from Brooklyn to Westchester, and yeah, we are currently in the midst of settling in. We moved in about a week, 2 weeks ago, actually. Yeah, wow. Time completely flies. I have no idea where it goes. For the most part, we thought we were pretty much out of boxes, and then yesterday we had things that we put in storage returned to us, and now we're back emptying boxes and putting things in their respective places. It's nuts, guys. Anyway, if you've moved in your life, you know what I am talking about. But anyway, yes, if you are new to my channel, hello, welcome. This is a channel primarily about knitting. However, I do deviate into other areas of craftiness, such as quilting and sewing, and embroidery sometimes, and historical garment making. It's a rabbit hole of sorts, my friends. But yes, for the most part, it's a lot of knitting, sometimes crochet, and this time around, it's a lot of quilting. So anyway, all that to say that I'm so happy you're here. Welcome. And yes, because we are moving, I'm still kind of settling into my craft room, moving things around. I'm still not completely happy with this backdrop setup right here. If you recall from my previous craft room, I had one of those giant Kallax shelving units from IKEA, and I didn't set it up in this place because I felt like it would just take up too much space. But as I'm unpacking things, I'm realizing that I really need those cubby holes, those shelves, to store all my yarn, my books, my tools. I've got a lot of stuff, guys. You don't realize, seriously, you really don't realize how much stuff you accumulate over the years until you have to move it all. Yeah, and I thought, this little shelving unit, it's also from IKEA. I forget what it's called, but I really like it. It just has kind of like a antique industrial vibe to it. I don't know. I really like it, but at the same time, I feel like it's too small and it's not very practical for what I need. It's currently in the attic, disassembled, but I think I may have to reassemble it this weekend. As much as I'm really, really, really dreading reassembling that thing, it is a beast. But I think it will serve me well going forward. So anyway, the Kallax may make a reappearance on this channel. Anyway, I will talk more about the move and life stuff at the end in the blather segment, where I generally chat about life stuff. But this episode is going to be a roundup of all the things that happened, all the things that I've been into, working on in the month of February. I know it's, what is it, March 3rd already? Yeah, it's March 3rd. Guys, time. Well, February is a short month to begin with, but yes, it blows my mind. But yes, as I try to do every month, just a little roundup of, favorites, things I've been into, things that have been inspiring me, things that I've been watching, listening to. That's what this episode is going to be about. So if that is your jam, gather around, grab a cup of something, and let's get into things. As for what I've been working on this past month, you're probably wondering, Kristen, what happened to the Don't Look Up sweater? It's still living in my Tanny Casey project bag. And you know what, guys? I'm gonna be totally honest. You may have saw this coming. I mean, if you've been with me for quite some time, you know I have a tendency to just lose interest in projects. But yeah, guys, it's on hiatus. It really is. But this is my Don't Look Up pullover. It's a pattern that I'm reverse engineering. It was a sweater that I saw Jennifer Lawrence wearing in the movie Don't Look Up, and a sweater that I saw at Target, and fell head over heels in love with it, and decided to take it upon myself to re-engineer the pattern because the sweater was sold out in stores. And anyway, you know how much I love a good challenge. So I did create the chart. I did take detailed notes as to how I arrived at, my stitch counts and everything. However, I can't even bring myself to finish Body Island. I'm on the ribbing. And then after that, I just have to knit the sleeves and it will be done. But for some reason, there is a mental roadblock that is preventing me from finishing this. the mojo is not there, and I'm not going to fight it, because I am a true believer in just working on the things that bring you joy. And right now, for some reason, I have no idea why, it's just not bringing me joy. So I'm just gonna let it marinate in my stash, in my whip spin until the spirit moves me to work on it again, because I'm aware. I'm very aware of how ridiculous it is that I just have to get past Sleeve Island and I will have a new sweater. But yeah, I'm just not feeling it right now, guys. If you are interested in making one yourself, I did provide the chart that I whipped up over on my Ravelry page. There's a link to a Google spreadsheet with the chart and everything. And to arrive at all my stitch counts, I used Elizabeth Zimmerman's sweater percentage system, which is really just a plug and play once you figure out your gauge. So once you figure out those numbers, you can just easily plug and play the chart into your own version, and Bob's your uncle. So yeah, anyway, I don't want to waffle on too much about this sweater, just because, yeah, it's taking a little break. But that's not to say that I'm not going to come back to it. It's just going to live in this project bag for a little bit. Oh, there are my knitting needles. The other thing that I've been working on in February that I cast on, guys, this project has been my rock. Let me tell you, throughout the entire move, I am just so glad that I've had this project with me to work on, and it was just so random. I wasn't expecting to cast this on, and it all came about when I did a random trip to Michael's. This is when we were still living in Brooklyn, and Dennis had to do a trip to Home Depot, and there was a Michael's nearby, so I went with him. And so I was browsing Michael's, and they were having a huge sale on Caron yarn. And a lot of it was this Yarnspirations Caron Cakes yarn, and they have different versions. So this is Crystal Cakes. Can you blame me? I saw this sitting there and I was just like, this has my name all over it. What can I make with this? And I turned the label over, and sure enough, there was this beautiful little Afghan pattern on the label. And I was like, that looks like a really fun project. I actually kind of want to cast that on. So yeah, I just bought up the yarn that I needed to make one of these. I bought, I think the pattern calls for 3 cakes of this yarn, and then 2 cakes of a contrasting color. And this is also their cakes, but the cloud base, so Caron Cloud Cakes. And guys, this yarn, it's 100%, this yarn in particular, this is their graphite colorway. Let me see. It's 100%, for 100% polyester. Yeah. It's so soft. It's like chenille, but even softer. I mean, I am, color me impressed. This yarn is gorgeous. And I think because it has glitter in it, it's not as soft. It's 64% acrylic, 24% polyester, 7% nylon, and 5% metallic. Yeah, so... So for the artificial fiber content in this yarn, I am very impressed by the touch and feel of this yarn. It is very nice. And a funny story, when I was ready to cast on, I got out my knitting needles, my little accordion thing of where I store my knitting needles, and looked at the pattern and, realized it was crochet. I don't crochet very often, but at the same time, I was still very much game to still cast on. And yeah, guys, as I said, it's just been so therapeutic to work on throughout this whole entire move. Here's one square, and yeah, as you can see, it's all just single crochet all throughout. But to get this texture, it has you crochet through the back loop, if that makes any sense. And I will be completely honest, again, I don't crochet very often at all. In fact, I find it to be a little harder than knitting, whereas knitting is just knit and purl, knit and purl. Crochet, you have to remember how many times to yarn over and pull through loops, and yeah, I'm sure the more I do it, the easier it will become, but because this is just one single stitch throughout, you're just making increases down the center, it's just been so relaxing. And I'm using 2 different size crochet hooks. I'm using 2 because they're 2 different weights. The pattern calls for a size H crochet hook, but because I'm using 2 different bases, when I was done knitting with this yarn and transitioned to the sparkly yarn, I downsized to a size F, or a 4mm crochet hook. The two different bases have different gauges when you knit with the same crochet hook. So was it this one? I can't remember. But anyway, yeah, you know how gauge works. I don't have to explain this. So anyway, we are currently knitting. Let me see. We have 1, we have 2, we have 3, we have 4. I have 4 squares, and I'm currently knitting on the 5th square. And yeah, I've just been plugging away at it, guys. I absolutely love it. The one thing that I do want to mention is that these are limited edition skeins, so you may be hard pressed to find them. I am going to be adding an additional border to the original pattern, just because I feel like it'll bring the whole thing together. And we couldn't make it back to the same Michaels, and I couldn't find this yarn anywhere online. So I did track down 2 skeins. Why do I talk with my hands, guys? Anyway, I did track down 2 skeins on eBay. I found a lovely seller who quickly shipped 2 skeins of this yarn, and they came right before we moved, so that I lucked out with that. Yeah, and I saved the unboxing for you guys. I just kept, to protect them from the elements during the move, I just kept them in the plastic. But yay, 2 skeins for the border. I don't know what kind of border I'm going to be knitting. It might just be a simple single crochet in the round again, just to complement the mitered squares on the inside. We shall see. I'm still kind of knocking around some ideas in my head, but yeah, we shall see. But yes, the other thing that has completely bogarted my heart during the month of February, English paper piecing. I mean, my goodness, guys, it has completely taken over my life. I just can't get enough. But yeah, the Millefiori quilt, a pattern. Let me see. I again learned about this through watching The Last Homely House with Kate. She, another YouTube channel. She primarily does a lot. She's brilliant. I cannot wax poetic about her channel enough. She's just so incredibly lovely. And I found her channel through searching YouTube for English paper piecing tutorials. But yeah, she was whipping up this quilt from, this English paper pieced quilt from Millefiori Quilts by Willyne Hammerstein. And the pattern in particular is called the, oh goodness, I want to say La Pasacaglia, but it could also be pronounced La Pasacaglia. I know one of the letters is silent or pronounced with a ya. So again, I butcher things all the time, guys, and I sincerely apologize. Full disclaimer, I'm just going to butcher every name. No matter how hard I try, someone in the comments is always going to say, that's not how you pronounce it, Kristen. This is how you pronounce it. But you know what? I'm doing the best that I can. Every day, we're all just doing the best that we can, aren't we? Yes, I am currently making the La Pasacaglia. Where is it? Where are you? Here you, there's bookmark. So yes, she was making this particular medallion from this book and completely fell head over heels in love with it. Had to try it myself, and here's where we are with my La Pasacaglia. Look at that. I am completely smitten with it, guys. Yes, it's coming together. I will be honest, I have not worked on it since we moved in here, just because everything's been everywhere, and yeah, just finding little snippets of downtime to work on this has just been, I've been hard pressed, let's be honest. But thoroughly enjoying the slow and steady process of making one of these. It is, not gonna lie, it's not for the faint of heart, especially if you are new to EPP. If you are new to EPP, I highly recommend starting out with hexies. If you can EPP hexies, you can EPP just about anything. So there are little bits and bobs in here that are a little fiddly to assemble, but once you know what you're doing, you can do it, guys. It's not that hard. But yes, all the fussy cutting, all the tiny little stitches, makes me so happy. So happy. So yeah, that is where I am with my Millefiori quilt, the La Pasacaglia, by Willyne Hammerstein, the pattern. And yeah, anyway, I'm trying to think what else. But the one thing, as I mentioned, some stuff from storage came back into our lives yesterday, and one thing that I was particularly excited to get back into my life was the Gomi die cutter quilty, the Accuquilt Gomi. My gosh, guys, it's been a week, but it's heavy too. Oh my god. So little backstory, my mother, my wonderful mother-in-law, gifted this to me one day. And this is, you know, I had kind of sort of been into quilting. You know, I've dipped my toes. And at the time that she gifted this to me, I was kind of like, I wasn't on the quilt making wagon. So I was just, you know, as soon as she gifted to me, I was like, I could see myself using this at some point. I definitely want to get back into quilting. So Carol, if you're watching, thank you so much for gifting this to me. Seriously, I could not be more thrilled to have the Gomi back in my life. So, but the funny thing is that for my birthday, when I fell hard down the EPP rabbit hole, I browsed Accuquilt's website and saw that they had some EPP die cuts. And, you know, it was around my birthday, so Dennis was asking, you know, if there's anything I want special that I want for my birthday. And I was like, well, you know, if you want to get me something, how about the die cut to make, you know, hexies? And he's like, yeah, sure, all right. They were having a sale. And yeah, Dennis got me the die cut to simultaneously cut out fabric scraps and cardboard to, you know, the cardboard that goes in, that you wrap the fabric around, so you can kill two birds with one stone. So I'll hold this up to the camera so you can see it better. But yeah, all these have little blades in them, so when you lay fabric over them and, you know, cardboard, and you run it through the Accuquilt, you crank it through, it, like, there are little blades that, you know, cut through the fabric and the cardboard, so when it comes out the other end, you have all your pieces cut out. And the cool thing is they're all accurate, like they're all precisely cut, so you're never left with wonky angles or anything, or you know, anyway, you know what I mean. So yes, he purchased this for my birthday, the lovely, wonderful man that he is, and it came in the mail, gave it to me for my birthday, but I realized that I put the Accuquilt, the Gomi, in storage, so yeah, I couldn't use it when it came. So you can imagine how excited I was to get the Gomi back in my craft room. Yeah, wow, this thing is really heavy. If you get two, you can probably use it as a weight and, you know, work your biceps. But yeah, I did actually have time to play around with it yesterday. While I was unpacking, I also unpacked some random postcards that I got from IKEA. I don't know, like, honestly, I picked these up just because I thought that they were pretty and, you know, I could decorate my craft room with them, but I realized it's just a little too chintzy for me. I don't know, I wasn't feeling them when I brought them home, and I was like, yeah, you know, maybe I can use them to scrapbook. Anyway, it turns out, because they're cardstock, they make for great EPP you know, paper inserts that you can use for the fabric. So, you know, you can see that I already ran this one through. And the cool thing about using, you know, really pretty postcards and stuff, it makes the whole process pretty, you know? It's like when you flip over your work, you can see like all these pretty little details and, you know, pictures, like especially this one. You can see like an eye. Ooh, hello. How you doing? So weird. Yeah, it just makes every project a little bit more special, you know? So yeah, I had a lot of fun taking it through its paces yesterday. I haven't EPP'd anything, but I tried some, you know, I got some scraps out and just ran it through, and yeah, it just cuts out everything so precisely, and I'm here for it, guys. So yeah, that is where I am on my EPP journey at the moment. I want to get back to actual quilting. I do love the instant gratification of just running fabric through a sewing machine and, you know, having something to show for it in a couple of hours. Because yeah, I mean, while I do love the slow and steady of the English paper piecing, I do love me some instant gratification sometimes. So I am hoping to get back to that at some point. I'm hoping to get back to that later this month. But yeah, that is pretty much what I worked on in the month of February. It's a very, very short month again, guys. I do have a new cast on to share with you. If you follow me on Instagram, you might have caught wind of or a hint of what it might be. I'm going to hold off on talking about it this week just because this is a roundup of all the things that happened in February, but I will share my progress on the Once and Floral next week. So come back for that. It's coming along really nicely, and so glad I cast it on. That's where my knitting mojo is right now. So those were all my February makes, but now to regale you with, you know, the things that I've been watching and listening to, things that have been inspiring me. Things that I've been watching. Let me get my list because I got a list, guys. Got a list. When I was younger, I used to watch a lot of movies. When I was living at home with my parents, we were complete movie buffs. Like pretty much every night, we'd watch a new movie, rewatch a favorite or something. And then as for someone who went to film school, I somehow fell off the wagon of watching films. I do love a good movie. So I really want to get back in the habit of watching films. And not all like Dennis and I, we have conflicting or contrasting tastes in movies. Like he definitely loves all the action movies, the cerebral dramas and everything. While we do sort of have a Venn diagram and overlap of things we enjoy, I definitely err on the side of historical dramas and romances and just weird films sometimes. So yeah, when he goes to band practice on Wednesdays, those nights I just make that movie night for myself. I get a glass of wine, I get my knitting, I have Bella with me, and we just hunker down and watch a movie. So the movies that I've watched in February, one was called Portrait of a Lady on Fire. Oh my God. Guys, this movie, highly, highly recommended. I would definitely categorize this movie as LGBTQ historical drama romance. It was just so incredibly well done, guys. It had a very small cast. The costumes were beautiful. The storyline so simple, but the acting was so incredibly powerful and just so well done. And I need to watch the movie again. It was just, yeah. I mean, it just ticked all of the boxes for me. And it's rare that I watch a movie and I'm just like, this was a really well done movie. I'm trying to think what else I want to say about it, but yeah, just the acting, like the whole production. Just do yourself a favor and watch it. It's such a beautiful movie. The other movie that I actually just watched yesterday, I actually have to finish watching it. I think I have maybe like 15 more minutes left of it, but it's called Phantom Thread. It's with Daniel Day-Lewis, and I'm blanking on the actress's name. But again, Daniel Day-Lewis he's a brilliant actor. I mean, need I say more? And again, another period piece. I believe it takes place in the late 40s, early 50s. He's a fashion designer. I was surprised. It was actually directed by P.T. Anderson, Paul Thomas Anderson. Not one of my favorite directors per se, but I appreciate his work. But yeah, I was really surprised how much I actually really like this film. Not as much as Portrait of a Lady on Fire, but the storyline as a whole, I really like the dynamic between the two main characters, the dysfunction of their relationship, their marriage, how it just so bizarre, guys, but so brilliant at the same time. But yeah, as I mentioned, he's a fashion designer with a lot of issues, but anyway, highly recommend it. So yeah, I cannot wait to finish watching that. The other thing that I watched, this is something that I just took a break during the day and just kind of binge watched on Hulu, and it's a series called Hunderby, and essentially it's a parody on all of Rebecca du Maurier books. And if you're not familiar with who Rebecca du Maurier is, she wrote the book Rebecca, one of my all-time favorite Gothic novels, and I had no idea going into this series that's what it was about until I started watching. I'm like, this is such a ripoff of Rebecca, but that was the whole point of the whole show. It's just a whole mockery of it's a parody. It's a satire of that genre, and it was very well done. But again, as I was watching it, it's a little too funny, a little too slapstick for me, and I was like, yeah, I don't know. I didn't finish watching it, but I appreciated it for what it was. But if you love British comedy, love Gothic novels, satire, definitely check it out. Yeah, so that's what I've been watching. As far as what I've been listening to, if you recall in my Q&A episode, the last one, I mentioned a book series by Bertrice Small, the Sky O'Malley Saga by Bertrice Small, one of my all-time favorite romance novelists. She's not for everybody. She's very raunchy, and it's definitely bodice ripping material. But I was browsing Audible and realized that they had recently released the audiobook for the very first romance novel that I ever read, and that was This Heart of Mine by Bertrice Small, and I just couldn't resist, guys. I couldn't resist. So it's been really interesting revisiting a book that I read at 16, now when I'm 39, I have a completely different perspective and take on it. But I think that's the case with a lot of books that you first read when you were younger, coming back to them when you're much older. It's such a wild dynamic that, anyway, yeah. But all that to say that I'm thoroughly enjoying the re-listen. The other thing that I've been listening to is a podcast. And I don't know why I haven't mentioned this podcast before, because I've been listening to it for quite some time. And I freaking love this podcast. It has nothing to do with crafting, nothing to do with creativity. It's called Be There in 5. It's hosted by Catherine Kennedy. I'm not sure how to describe this podcast other than I discovered it through listening to the Sounds Like a Cult podcast. She was a guest on the Tony Robbins episode, and I basically checked out her podcast from there. And yeah, essentially she does all these deep dives into pop culture, and it's so random, guys, but so good. And they are incredibly long format. They run about like 2.5 hours. I particularly love listening to this podcast while I'm working throughout the day. So, when I'm skeinin yarn, labeling yarn, doing all the autopilot stuff, it's just really great to have in my ears because, yeah, she just talks about these random topics, like nostalgic topics, like things that I could relate to growing up in the 90s. She recently did an episode on 80s rom-coms. She touches on everything, like the whole evolution of rom-coms, romantic comedies, and why they're problematic and how they've evolved. And anyway, it's not hard-hitting, it's not going to change your life, but it's just it's really fun to just have going on in the back of your ears. And she also does make you think. She poses questions. She admits that she's not an expert in anything, but at the same time, it's just really thought-provoking and and nostalgic, and I just absolutely love it. It's like having a friend in your ear while you work, so I'm here for it. So yeah, check it out. It's called Be There in 5 with Catherine Kennedy, and yeah. So anyway, that, my friends, is all she wrote. I've been waffling on for way too long, as I usually do, but I'm trying to think any more life updates other than we're settling in very, very nicely, rather quickly, dare I say, with the exception of these boxes that just came back into our life that we have to sort through this weekend. Lots of Home Depot trips. Oh, goodness, guys. But I will say, we are loving it here. Working from home has just been a joy, guys. I seriously, it's been night and day from working in Brooklyn where it's so noisy and loud. I just feel so lucky right now. I'm very, very happy to be where we are. And the food, oh my goodness, guys, the restaurants here, you don't realize, like, there are restaurants in Brooklyn that are very good, but when you, having moved here, you taste the difference. Things taste fresher, and they taste, they're not as eclectic as some of the restaurants that you get in Brooklyn. I know a lot of restaurants get very experimental. Out here, it's not as over the top, but it's done very well. Like a simple dish just tastes so good. Anyway, I must sound crazy right now, but yeah, we are thoroughly enjoying it. I painted my craft room. I don't know if you can tell from my last episode. It was just kind of like a run and gun vlog thing that I did last week. I've painted the room and I'm very, very happy. I'm still debating if I want to wallpaper this room, this wall over here. I talk more about it on the Monday Waffle, which, by the way, is a bonus vlog that I publish to members of this YouTube channel. If you would like to support this channel in any way and, get some bonus content out of me, just click the join button below this video. And for the price of a fancy schmancy cup of coffee every month, you can enjoy a weekly bonus vlog from yours truly, along with some extra bonus content along the way. But yes, this is, again, still a work in progress. I don't know if this background is going to stay the way it is. We shall see, but it's serving its purpose for now. And I'm trying to think what else. Yeah, home tour. Home tour is coming down the pike. We are just getting things where they need to be. And then I promise you, a home tour is coming because I totally want to do an architectural digest version of a house tour. So anyway, all right, my friends. Thank you so much, as always, for hanging out with me. Again, if you're new here, welcome. And if you haven't already, feel free to like and subscribe down below. I put out videos for your viewing pleasure every week. And until the next one, happy knitting, happy making, and I'll see you next time. Bye.